Hi, welcome to Presenting for Engineers. If you've stumbled upon this video, there's a good chance that you're from SUTD, which I am from. And Presenting for Engineers is a workshop that I did for the Independent Activity Period 2021. Now, in the spirit of sharing and an open source community, I'm releasing this video out to the world so that whoever finds it might make use of it, because I think it's an important skill to have, especially if you come from a technical background like myself. So anyway, over the course of the next 4 videos, I will be going through the content that I covered in my workshop. There are breaks between the workshop, and that is probably where I'll cut the videos at. And if there are any references or quips or jokes that don't make sense to you, it's probably something that's SCTD specific. And I'm sorry for that. I hope you don't mind. With that, I invite you on this about 2-hour long workshop, and I hope it's good and useful for you. So let's begin. Hi. Welcome to Presenting for Engineers. I'm Alex. This was me when I was a lot lighter, and I think that presenting is important. I like giving presentations, and I like it when they're good, and I think it's a joy that I want to share with you, and I want to give you the means to achieve. Now, of course, the first thing is who are you to even talk to me about this? Well, I've done some things for the school. I've done a little bit of emceeing. I've done a little bit of public speaking, and it seems that people think I can present. So I guess that's the best I can offer. I don't have any other awards beyond that. As always, your mileage may vary. My style of presenting is very different from most people. I'm quite maniacal. I'm quite wild and quite energetic and a little bit irreverent. So if that's not your style, take it with a grain of salt and repurpose it as you like. I'm doing this in a sort of one-take style, so please pardon any random noises that might appear in my room. Anyway, you probably want to give good presentations too, and here are 3 reasons why. One is that your ideas get the recognition they deserve, right? Imagine if you've worked for a long time on a certain idea, a certain project, and you bungle the presentation and people don't pay attention. It's quite a shame. Second thing is that, good presentations, when delivered well, are quite fun. You feed energy into the audience feeds it back to you, you all have a good time, and you all learn something out of it. And the most important thing is that your presentation is worth something. If you do a good presentation, your audience gets a new idea, they think about it, and you add to the value of things in the world. Imagine if you have despite how good your idea is, but your audience just stones through it, they are bored, they don't pay attention, they get nothing out of it. That's really quite a shame. Over the course of your university experience, or at least in mine, you'll be going through 32 presentations, unless you're from Aki, right? Because we've got 8 terms, we've got 4 subjects each. Every single one will require at some point some form of a presentation. So might as well get good at it. My end game is to equip you with a 97-to-1 ratio, a sort of KDA, right? You have 97 decent presentations, which will form sort of the basis of your reputation, that people know that, hey, this person can present decently. Then there'll be 2 presentations which you'll eventually bungle up. And that's fine. It happens all the time. Mistakes happen, right? So we need to give you that allowance so that, you can make mistakes and not feel too bad about it. And the one is for that one incredible presentation that really seals the deal and entrenches and secures your reputation as an awesome presenter. And of course, that is something that will give you the will and the pride and the energy to push through when you have harder times. Now, when I first released this workshop, there was a survey, which of course you are now no longer privy to, where I asked people, what are the things that you want to learn? And there's always a lot of things that need to be covered. So how we're going to go through this is by splitting this into 4 parts. First, the hard truths to keep you going as the prelude. This will set your mindset so that you are ready to take on the challenges ahead. If you don't have the right mindset, no matter how much content I give you, there's nothing I can do for you. Then we'll have 3 content sections, part 1, 2, and 3. The stuff you say, which talks about the content of your presentations. The slides you show, your PowerPoint slides and other props and tools, how you should use them, what they should be like. And part 3, the style you own, where I talk about practicing and developing your own sense of presenting style. Now the class structure, which is probably a little bit more irrelevant for the video, but doesn't matter, we'll just go through it as well, is that the entire section should be about 30 minutes. I've done this class about 3 times now, and it's proven to be approximately true. There's always an exercise in the middle of the class because I feel that doing practical things allows you to have a genuine understanding of the topic. So please take the time to do the exercise. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. Just skip over that section. And then, of course, there should be a break. Please take a break between each section because it's actually a lot of content after a while. And despite my best efforts to shave down and identify like important points only, this is a very rich and large topic, so it's very hard to break down. Now, of course, you can't post questions in the chat, but you're most welcome to PM me, comment, or find some way of contacting me so you can ask me about these questions. Yeah. And with that, we've come to the end of the introduction of presenting for engineers. We'll go ahead into the prelude, which I will just splice on to the end of this video. Welcome to the prelude of presenting for engineers. This section I'd like to call hard truths to keep you going. No prizes for figuring out which title I blatantly ripped that off from. But anyway, this section is about the mindset you should have when approaching presenting. So let's begin. Now, if we want to effect lasting change in the way that you present, that lasting change has to be built on a solid foundation of fundamental beliefs and ideas. And of course, good boy for good measure. But this fundamental beliefs and ideas means we need to think first about the way we think, and therefore change your mindset about presenting. So that's what this entire section is about. So welcome to Hard Truths to Keep You Going. And this is what we are going to overturn over the course of our next few points, next few minutes. Now, the first idea I need you to throw away is that presenting is about talent. That's not true. There's a formula that the quality of your presentation is a function of K, P, and T. This comes from Patrick Winston's How to Speak. It's on MIT OpenCourseWare, and in fact, it was the presentation that inspired me to do this for my school community. But what does KPT stand for? Right. So K is the most important, P is somewhat important, T is the least significant. KPT stands for knowledge, practice, and talent. So what this means is that how well you know your content, how well you know that topic before you give a presentation, it's the largest determinant of the quality of your presentation, right? But of course, how well you deliver that depends on practice, not so much talent. Talent gives you a little bit of style, gives you a little bit of ideas on how to deliver things, but without knowledge, genuine knowledge of the topic, there's nothing you can present, nothing you can practice. And without practice, you're still going to make mistakes, you're still going to fumble, you're still going to feel nervous, and you're going to do things that don't seem really good, right? So no point having talent if you don't have knowledge, you don't have practice. So this is an exercise that I have come up with, which I'd like you all to do. I need you to get some sort of rubber duck or some sort of other partner or something that you can direct your energies to. I want you to rant to them, right? And over the call, I want you to rant to them for 1 minute and see whether you can just rant about something that makes you really angry, makes you feel really passionately about, because that way you'll find that even if, as long as you know that topic, as long as you're sufficiently angry about it, you'll find a way to deliver that knowledge. And that is presentation at its rawest, the most raw, the most pure form. So remember that it's really a function of your knowledge, your practice, and then your talent. You don't need talent when it comes to presenting. And at the end of the day, in fact, later, much later, you'll find that what you call talent is really an illusion. It's something else. But let's continue. Often you'll find people say, oh, I didn't study or practice very hard. These people are all a bunch of liars. And the reason for that is not that they don't actually study or practice very hard. It's because they do, right? The reason why they can say that is because they know that they can work a lot harder on it. They can do a lot better, right? And they didn't achieve that. These are usually people who have already studied a certain topic for a very long time. Let's say like presenting, right? People who say, I didn't really practice very hard, have probably practiced a lot more beforehand, right? But they know that they haven't really reached that goal where to them it's satisfactory. The reason for that is because as you get better, you're banking on the practice that you've had long in beforehand, the experiences that you had. This forms a sort of foundation, a basis for your skills. And the problem with that is that the higher you go, you realize that you can actually invest a lot more time and a lot more practice to make that next step, right? So to you, your standards, your internal standards are rising, but to everyone else it's like, you're already somewhere, you're already very capable, but to yourself it feels like this is not enough. I can always do better. So that's why I say these people are liars. If you look at people who are experts in Peak, this book that I recently read, it's not really intelligence and talent that makes you an expert, but it's in fact the experience and the time that they've invested, which eventually lets them develop the mental models required to build up towards expertise. One way to think of it is that the mental models are tools, and a toolbox is only useful when you have enough of the right tools to put together, and that eventually becomes your expertise box. So deliberate practice, a lot of practice, thinking and iterating through different styles and methods eventually helps you build those mental models, which eventually come together to form this illusion of expertise. It's not about talent, it's really about practice and experience and knowledge. So if you can, if you put time into whatever you want to be good at, you too can be stonks. Alright. The second mindset that I need you to get out of, I need you to change, I need you to throw away, is that every presentation must be perfect. And that's really quite toxic. And the reason for that is that you have to forgive yourself when your presentations mess up, right? Because competence, the idea of competence can be represented in 4 stages. And when you look for perfect presentations, that's all the way at the bottom, unconscious competence. Now let's go through all of these so that you have a rough idea of what this model of competence is. So the first one is that you're unconsciously incompetent. Let's say let's use presenting as an example. You have no idea that you're bad. You're so bad that you don't even know that you're bad. The good thing, most people aren't here. Most of us can already say that I'm bad. And that puts us here in stage 2, right, of conscious incompetence. That means you're doing something, it's not really great, but you don't know how to get out of it. You don't know how to get out of that rut. You don't know how to move on to the next step. And this is where a lot of us are, right? Then eventually, as you build up your practice, as you build up your knowledge, as you build up your mental models, you eventually learn, okay, these are the steps that I need to do. These are all the bases that I need to cover so I can get it right. The problem with this is that it also means you are investing a lot of conscious effort to secure every last bit, to cover all your bases and to make sure you don't mess up anywhere, right? Eventually, most of us will be able to reach this point. Now, the final stage, which is unconscious competence, is that you're so good, you don't even realize, you don't even need to think about doing it right because it's hardwired into you from the sheer amount of practice and knowledge that you have. Everything feels like it comes naturally, but it's only because you've done it a lot. If you can think that, you look at an old presentation of yours and you think, oh God, I was such an idiot, it means you're doing something right, because that means at least you're in stage 2, you're moving on to stage 3, and you recognize that, this is the path forward, and that is a great thing. Now, remember that our goal is 97 decent presentations, 2 mess ups, like 2 presentations that we just, that was quite cringe-worthy, and 1 presentation that's fantastic. And you have to give yourself wiggle room to fail, because if you beat yourself up every time you mess up, like, you're going to deplete yourself really, really quickly. That one bad presentation is just a bump on the road, where, you know, we're playing the long game, where you have a lot of other presentations down the line. It can be conference papers, it can be a different presentation, it could be eventually when you're working, you know, all these little things. One presentation that you mess up is really just like a small blip in the grand scheme of things. So don't beat yourself up if, you know, you ever make a mistake. You're playing the longest game, you're playing this for life, because that's how you build your reputation, that's how you build your skills. So, you know, if you make a mistake, like, just let it go, it's fine. Forgive yourself. This actually ties into the last idea, which is you have to give 100% for every presentation. The last mindset I need you to pick up is that you need to learn how to pick your battles and not give your all every single time. Learn to moderate yourself a little bit, because presenting it's a tiring process, and if it's very easy to burn yourself out if you don't pace yourself, right? Because when you do like any form of presentation, you have your contents to do, then typically there'll be slides, and then you have to practice. And the terrible thing is that as you do more and more of it and you start to uncover more errors, you quickly go into this mad downward spiral of like desperately trying to improve, but the cost of improvement is increasing every single time, right? So typically you'll take about 30 hours to prepare a solid presentation. And remember that the better you get, the more you expect of yourself, that 30 hours can turn into 60, 90, even 100 hours. So you have to learn how to pick your battles here. Your goal is to win the war and build a lot of decent presentations. Maybe, just maybe, you'll have that one big presentation that's super important. That's when you invest your 100 hours, 120 hours, 150 hours. I've gone through that before, right? And it really made a difference. But it's you know, it's just one presentation. You're not doing this all the time, because that's the easiest way for you to burn out. And we don't want that for you, right? I want you to still have that love and interest in presenting. So your goal is to win the war. Fight hard on the ones that matter. These are the hard truths to keep you going. Knowledge and practice beats talent. Forgive yourself if you make a mistake and try again. And lastly, pick your battles, win the war. Right, with that, we'll come to the end of this video. In the next one, we'll cover our content. We'll start with our content proper, with part 1, the stuff you say. Of course, you don't have to take a 5-minute break. You can just go directly. Yeah.